Welcome to Redacted Reality. If the allure of the shadowy, cryptic, and mystical tales captivate you, then please subscribe and hang around. Chapter 4: Silent Invitation. The truck's engine ticked as it cooled, the only sound breaking the unnatural silence that blanketed the property. No chirping crickets, no rustling leaves, no distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Just stillness, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. "You know what they say about quiet woods," Sam whispered, his voice unnaturally loud in the silence. Either something really bad just happened, or something really bad is about to happen. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Joe scanned the tree line, his posture rigid. "Let's focus. Document everything before we go inside." Ellie nodded, already moving towards the house with measured steps. The moonlight cast long shadows across the overgrown lawn, transforming ordinary shrubs into crouching figures. She pulled out her flashlight but hesitated to switch it on, as if the darkness offered some protection she wasn't ready to surrender. "Look at those trees," Joe murmured, running his hand along the bark of a nearby oak. "The growth pattern's all wrong." The trunk twisted away from the house, branches reaching the opposite direction as if straining to escape. Sam aimed his camera at the distorted trees. "It's the same all around. Everything's growing away from the property." The camera's shutter clicked softly, like nature knows something we don't. Ellie had stopped several yards ahead, her silhouette motionless against the moonlight. Joe and Sam exchanged glances before moving to join her. "Guys," she said, her voice barely audible. "Look." At the base of the porch steps lay a large deer, its body splayed unnaturally across the dirt path. Even in the dim light, they could see it hadn't died naturally. Its belly had been sliced open, but instead of the chaotic mess of a predator kill, the cuts were deliberate, forming a pattern across its hide. "Jesus," Joe breathed, instinctively stepping in front of Ellie. Sam raised his camera, then lowered it again, suddenly reluctant to document this particular scene. "Those are runes," he said, "like the ones we found at the burial site." Ellie crouched down, careful not to touch the carcass. Her earlier chattiness had vanished, replaced by a focused intensity. "Recently," she observed. "No significant decomposition. Maybe a day old?" "Which means whoever did this could still be around," Joe concluded, scanning the darkness with renewed vigilance. "Or whatever did this," Sam added, attempting another joke that fell flat in the oppressive atmosphere. Ellie traced the air above one of the symbols, her hand trembling slowly. "These aren't random. They're placed over specific organs." She pointed to the marks above the heart, the liver, the lungs. "It's methodical." Joe placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "We should report this and come back with the others." "We're already here," she countered, her voice quiet but firm. "And this confirms what we suspected. Something is happening, right now, not in some dusty historical record." Sam knelt beside her, studying the symbols with a grimace. "These match some of the ones from Judge Whittaker's journal that Lily found. Old stuff, pre-Christian." The house loomed before them, windows like empty eye sockets observing their debate. The front door hung slightly ajar, as if in invitation. "Whatever answers we need are in there," Ellie said, rising to her feet with newfound resolve. "We didn't come all this way to turn back now." Joe's expression hardened as he studied the mutilated deer. "We stay together, no exceptions." Sam nodded, camera clutched lightly in his hands. Like glue. They approached the porch steps, carefully circling around the grim offering left for them. The wood creaked beneath their weight as they ascended, the sound unnaturally loud in the suffocating silence. The front door whispered across the floorboards as Joe pushed it open, revealing a foyer that defied their expectations. Instead of the collapsing ruin they anticipated, the interior stood eerily intact. Moonlight filtered through grimy windows, illuminating a space that time seemed to have touched on only lightly. "This can't be right," Sam murmured, sweeping his flashlight beam across the entrance hall. "This place should be a wreck after all these years." Ellie stepped inside, her boots leaving clear prints in the layers of dust. "It's like it's been preserved somehow." The wallpaper, though faded and peeling in places, still clung stubbornly to the walls. A grand staircase curved upwards towards the second floor, its banister remarkably solid despite visible water stains. The air hung heavy with the scent of mildew and something else, something sharper and more metallic. "Temperature's dropping," Joe noted, his breath forming a faint cloud. He ran a professional hand along the wall, examining the structure. Foundation solid, no significant settling or water damage in the main supports. Sam photographed the entrance hall, his camera flash momentarily banishing the shadows. "As an engineer, does that make sense to you?" "Not even a little," Joe admitted. They moved deeper into the house, entering what must have been an elegant sitting room. Furniture draped in sheets created hunched silhouettes in the darkness. Ellie pulled back one cover, revealing a Victorian settees. The upholstery had rotted, exposing springs and wooded framework, yet the piece remained structurally intact. "Look at this," she called, pointing to a bookshelf against the far wall. "The books are decayed, but the shelf itself barely has any damage." Sam frowned, lowering his camera. "It's like the organic materials are rotting, but the house itself is protected," Joe finished, his voice tight. As they continued their survey, moving from the sitting room towards the dining room, an inexplicable unease began to settle over them. Logical observations gave way to primal instinct, the feeling of being watched, of being unwelcome. The dining room featured a long table surrounded by high-backed chairs. A chandelier hung above, crystals intact despite decades of abandonment. Place settings remained arranged as if waiting for dinner guests, porcelain plates coated in dust. Ellie's hand trembled slightly as she documented measurements in her notebook. "Does anyone else feel like we shouldn't be here?" Sam nodded, swallowing hard. "Like we're trespassing." "We are trespassing," Joe pointed out, but his attempt at rationality sounded hollow even to his own ears. Sam's camera flash illuminated a portrait on the wall. Judge Whittaker himself, his stern eyes seeming to follow their movements across the room. "I keep thinking I hear footsteps upstairs," he whispered. "There's nobody here," Joe insisted, but found himself listening intently for sounds from above. Ellie moved towards a door at the far end of the dining room, her steps growing hesitant. This should lead to the kitchen, according to the floor plans. The doorknob turned easily in her hand, too easily for a house this old. As the door swung open, a blast of cold air rushed out, carrying with it the distinct scent of fresh earth and decay. "I don't want to go in there," Sam said suddenly, the admission bursting from him involuntarily. Joe, always the practical one, found himself nodding in agreement. "Maybe we should regroup, come back in daylight." Ellie stood frozen in the threshold, staring into the darkness beyond. "Something's wrong with this place," she whispered. "It feels hungry." The front door surrendered with a reluctant groan, revealing a foyer that defied their expectations. Ellie's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating a space that should have been ravaged by decades of abandonment but wasn't. "This doesn't make sense," Joe whispered, running his fingers along a wooden banister. "No water damage? No major structural collapse?" Sam swept his light across the ceiling. "Look at that. Plaster should be falling apart after all these years, especially with Pennsylvania winters." The house was undeniably neglected. Dust caked every surface. Cobwebs draped from corners like Gothic decorations, but the decay seemed suspended, as if time moved differently within these walls. "It's like it's been preserved," Ellie murmured, her voice tight. They moved as one unit into the sitting room, footsteps muffled by a once elegant carpet now dulled with age. Furniture arranged in conversation clusters sat waiting, as if the occupants had simply stepped out momentarily. The upholstery was rotting, fabric disintegrating at the edges, yet the wooden frames beneath remained solid. Joe pulled out his phone, documenting the anomaly. The structure itself is fighting deterioration. That's not natural. Sam's camera clicked steadily as he captured the room's unsettling preservation. "Anybody else feel like we're being watched?" Ellie didn't answer. She moved to a sideboard where framed photographs stood. Their glass was clouded with dust, but the images remained discernible. Stern-faced men and women in Victorian dresses. One photo featured a man she recognized from Millie's research. "Judge Whittaker," she said, pointing. "And this must be Coven members." A floorboard creaked somewhere upstairs. All three froze, eyes darting to the ceiling. "Settling house," Joe offered, not sounding convinced. They pressed on to the dining room, where a long table dominated the space. Set for a dinner party that never concluded. Tarnished silver gleamed dully in the flashlight beams, plates set empty, waiting for food that would never arrive. Who leaves a fully set table when abandoning a house? Sam wondered aloud, his usual humor absent. Ellie approached the head of the table, where a larger chair stood. Something dark stained the wood beneath it. "Blood?" he whispered. Joe knelt to examine it. Too old to tell, but it's concentrated, not splatter. A sudden chill swept through the room, dropping the temperature noticeably. Ellie's breath clouded before her face. "Did you feel that?" Sam nodded, camera forgotten at his side. "Something's wrong. This whole place feels awake." The rational part of Ellie's mind cataloged their observations. Unusual preservation, historical artifacts, potential evidence of rituals. But beneath that professional assessment, a primal fear was taking root. Her heart hammered against her ribs, her mouth dry. The fear felt invasive, as if originating from outside herself. Joe's hand trembled slightly as he documented the blood stain. "We should be methodical," he said, voice strained. "Start with the ground floor, then—" "I don't want to be here," Sam interrupted, the words bursting from him like a confession. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated. "I mean, I really don't want to be here. More than makes sense." Ellie recognized the same irrational terror clawing at her own mind. "It's affecting us. Like the forest, like the animals." A door slammed upstairs, the sound reverberating throughout the house. "Just the wind," Joe whispered, but there was no wind. The darkness in the corners seemed to deepen, pulsing with malevolent awareness. The house wasn't just preserved, it was alive, and it knew they were there. The dining room's oppressive atmosphere thickened as they finished documenting the space. Joe meticulously photographed the bloodstain while Ellie sketched the room's layout in her notebook, her hand trembling slightly against the page. "Let's move on," she whispered. her voice unnaturally loud in the silence. "Kitchen should be through here." Sam nodded, unable to shake the sensation of being observed. "The sooner we get something concrete, the sooner we can get the hell out." They approached the swinging door at the far end of the dining room. Joe pushed it open with a reluctant creak, revealing a butler's pantry lined with glassy fronted cabinets. Their flashlight beams caught the dusty gleam of the fine china and crystal, arranged with meticulous precision. "Still intact," Joe murmured. "No signs of looting." Who breaks into a house and doesn't steal the silver? Sam's attempt at humor fell flat, his voice strained. The temperature dropped noticeably as they crossed the threshold into the kitchen. Their breath materialized in small, frightened clouds before their faces. The space was cavernous, dominated by a massive cast iron stove and a central preparation table. Copper pots hung from a rack overhead, their surfaces tarnished but unbroken. Ellie shivered, pulling her jacket tighter. "It's freezing in here." Joe frowned, running his hand along a countertop. "No dust. That's not right." He was correct. While the dining room and pantry had been coated in decades of accumulated grime, the kitchen surfaces were oddly pristine. The floor showed no tracks except their own fresh footsteps. The sink contained no debris, the stove no ancient food residue. "It's like someone's been maintaining it," Sam whispered, training his camera on the anomaly. Ellie opened a cupboard, finding neatly stacked plates. No cobwebs, no mouse droppings. She closed it with a soft click. No insects. Nothing. Joe knelt by the baseboards, examining the corners. No sign of any kind of pest, not even a spider. "That's impossible," Sam said, his professional curiosity momentarily overriding his fear. Abandoned structures are basically pest hotels. Something heavy scraped across the floor above them. All three froze, eyes darting to the ceiling. The sound moved deliberately, like furniture being rearranged, or something large dragging itself across the floorboards. "Just the house settling," Joe offered weakly. "Bullshit," Sam hissed. "Houses don't settle in straight lines." Ellie's hands clenched into fists as she fought against the rising tide of panic. "We need something concrete, some evidence to take back to Sarah and Marcus." "We've got plenty," Sam argued, gesturing at his camera. "Weird preservation, bloodstains, ritualistic symbols." "Not enough," Ellie insisted. "We need to understand what's happening here. What's keeping this place alive?" The kitchen offered two exits besides the one they'd entered through. A narrow door to their left presumably led to the servants' quarters, while a wider doorway to their right opened into what appeared to be a drawing room. "Options?" Joe asked, his engineer mind still trying to impose logic on the increasingly illogical situation. Ellie pointed to the right. "Drawing room loops back to the front entrance. Safest route if we need to bail quickly." Sam nodded towards the servants' door. "But the real answers will be back there, where they kept their secrets." Another loud thud sounded overhead, followed by what might have been footsteps. Too many footsteps, moving in too many directions at once. "It knows we're here," Sam whispered, "and it's getting more active." Joe's jaw tightened. "We stick together, no matter what." Ellie stared at the servants' door, torn between self-preservation and the need for answers. 5 more minutes. We check the servants' quarters, grab anything useful, and get out. "The rational part of me says we should leave right now," Joe admitted, his voice tight with controlled fear. "But I know we won't." Sam placed a hand on Joe's shoulder. "If it makes you feel better, the irrational part of me is screaming to run like hell." Despite the joke, Sam's face was pale, his knuckles white around his camera. The fear wasn't natural. It pressed against their minds like a physical force, growing stronger with each passing minute. "Let's do this," Ellie said, moving towards the servant's door. Her hand trembled as she reached for the knob. 5 minutes, then we're gone. The door swung open with unsettling ease, revealing a narrow hallway lined with hooks for coats and aprons. Beyond stretched a corridor with several doors, servants' bedrooms presumably. "Stay close," Joe murmured, following Ellie into the passage. The corridor was noticeably darker than the kitchen, their flashlight beams seeming to penetrate less distance. The walls pressed in, the house, the ceiling hung lower, creating a sense of claustrophobia that hadn't been present in the main house. Sam entered last, his breathing shallow. Is it just me, or is it getting harder to think straight? Ellie nodded, fighting through a fog of dread. The house. It's doing something to us, trying to scare us off, or lure us deeper, Joe added grimly. The first door on the left stood partially open. Ellie pushed it wider, revealing a small bedroom containing a narrow cot, a washstand, and a simple dresser. Unlike the kitchen, this room showed signs of decay. The mattress rotted, the wooded furniture warped. Different preservation pattern, Joe noted. Professional curiosity momentarily overriding fear. The main house is protected, but not these quarters. Sam photographed the room quickly. Class distinction, maybe? The ritual protected what they valued? A sudden, sharp creak echoed from deeper in the corridor, like a door being flung open against a wall. All three jumped, instinctively huddling closer together. "I'm not imagining that," Sam whispered. "No," Ellie agreed, her voice barely audible. "Something's down there." The darkness at the end of the hallway seemed to pulse, to breathe. Their flashlight beams couldn't quite penetrate it, as if the shadows had substance. Joe's arm wrapped around Ellie's shoulders, steadying her. "We support each other. We keep going." They moved forward as one unit, checking each room briefly. The servants' quarters told a story of abrupt abandonment, personal items left behind, beds unmade, a hairbrush still containing strands of hair. "They left in a hurry," Ellie observed, examining a half-written letter on a small desk. Mid-sentence. The final door in the corridor stood closed. Unlike the others, this one was made of heavier wood, reinforced with iron bands. No light escaped around its edges. "That's not a bedroom door," Joe said quietly. Sam swallowed hard. 5 minutes are almost up. Ellie placed her hand on the door and jerked back with a gasp. "It's warm." All three stared at the door, their unnatural fear now battling with a compulsion to see what lay beyond. The house seemed to hold its breath, waiting for their decision.